Hello, the topic of my presentation is related to the process of transformation in tourism and transformative experiences. We conducted a series of qualitative and quantitative studies. We tried to conceptualize the process of transformation that includes triggers or transformative experiences, some feelings people have after having transformative experiences, self-reflection and self-disorienting dilemma, self-changes and consequent actions. So we modeled the process of transformation. We developed and validated a scale of outcomes of transformation. But the main idea of my presentation is not only to share the results of our studies, but to invite you to think about designing transformative experiences, how we can create transformative experiences, how we can measure them, and how can we test them using experimental design. But first of all, let me briefly tell you about my background, because it's important. It will help to understand my motivation to do this kind of research. I got my first degree in international economics, then strategic management, then MBA. After that, I switched to cognitive neuroscience, behavioral economics, neuroeconomics, and I received my PhD from the Rosen College at the University of Central Florida. I used to work in the government. I was the director of the business development administration, and I developed innovation development programs, business development programs, business education programs, and I was in charge of more than 190,000 organizations. I also led several non-profit organizations. I was a chair. I was the president of ISIC. I was the national president of JCI International. I currently serve as a chair of MPI Research Advisory Board, the biggest association of event planners in the world, and so on. And I certainly ran several businesses. I was a CEO of a big manufacturing company. I owned several tourism businesses. I led the biggest national graduate recruitment project. I designed and produced my own boats, and you can see one of the results. I did this boat from scratch by myself. I mean, I designed it, I produced it, I sell these type of boats, and I'm a big fan of boats, sailboats, and I organized the major on-the-water boat shows in my home countries. I was also involved in a series of innovation projects and event planning activities. Now I'm doing research. I'm leading research projects on exploring the impacts of tourism development, economic, social, environmental, psychological impacts of tourism, and developing new methods of measuring the dynamic nature of customer experience in different fields. And during the last 2-3 years, I published more than 30 papers as a first author in top-tier journals. And during all periods of my activities, I did events. I designed from scratch and I organized more than 300 events: investment forums, conferences, career days, innovation forums, boat shows, millionaire fairs, workshops, and so on and so forth. And I had a unique opportunity to observe attendees' behavior, to observe participants' behavior, to observe behavior of different stakeholders. And maybe because of that, I became so involved in customer experience and transformation research. I can skip some outlines of our studies. I'll briefly tell you about some of them later. So there are two major streams of my research: customer experience and tourism impacts. As for customer experience, I am keen on developing new methods of measuring the dynamic, instant, and effective nature of customer experience in tourism, hospitality, healthcare, and public service. Tourism impacts, exploring the impacts of tourism development on residents' quality of life, health, and well-being. As for customer experience, I am trying to introduce the concept of experience utility as a better measure of experience than currently applied satisfaction surveys, experience surveys, and so on. And I'm splitting experience into decision utility, anticipation utility, experience utility, remembered utility, total utility, and so on. And it helps me to develop some models. And tourism impacts, this is a long-lasting project. The idea on the first phase is to explore the impacts of tourism in different countries, different regions on residents' health, residents' quality of life, environmental outcomes, and so on. And the second phase is to develop some educational curriculum, to develop the resource center with all the data we collected, all the results, videos, analytics dashboards, and so on. And most importantly for me is to implement all of these results into practice and to develop tourism policies based on the results of our research. So let's return to transformative experiences. We conducted several studies. We collected qualitative data. We collected quantitative data. We conceptualized the process of transformation. And it's not an easy process because, again, the topic is multidisciplinary. It was well discussed in educational research, but it's still at the first stage of research in our field. So, in brief, transformation is a process of change in an individual's self, like beliefs, worldview, thoughts, personality, and so on, and consequent actions triggered by transformative experience. And this is the schematic representation of the process of transformation, transformative experiences that lead to certain emotions and feelings, that lead to self-reflection, self-disorienting dilemma. People understand that they do not understand anything, and they reflect on this unusual state, and it leads to self-changes, changes in beliefs, thoughts, worldviews, and so on. And it's important that it should result in certain behavior. It should lead to certain actions. The results of the qualitative studies. We found that there are different types of transformative experiences. They can be related to the death of close people, observing poverty, meeting close people, visiting destinations, moving to a different place, having children, and so on. But the pleasant thing that they are related sometimes to tourism activities. And we can see that the main triggers that caused tourist transformation were related to meeting with new people, local people, fellow travelers, and so on, uniting with nature, taking part in cultural activities, exiting from the zone of comfort when people are observing poverty or visiting some tragedy places, dark tourism places, and so on, and so on. So, based on this, we can suggest that some tourism activities can cause tourist transformation. As for the stages of the process of transformation, self-reflection and disorienting dilemma, people reported that they had an experience that caused them to question the way they normally act. I had an experience that caused me to question my ideas about social roles. The experience changed the way I view situations, and so on. The next group of items is related to critical reflection and new roles. As I questioned my ideas, I realized that I no longer agreed with my previous beliefs. I thought about acting in a different way. I felt uncomfortable with traditional social expectations. So these are exactly the changes that people have at this moment. And consequent actions. I gathered the information I need to adopt new ways of acting. I began to think about reactions and feedback from my new behavior. I took action and adopted these new ways of acting, and so on. So it helped us to model the process of transformation, and this is the model. These items, these constructs are related to transformative trip experiences. The second group of concepts is related to cognitive and affective stimulation, resulting self-changes and subsequent behavior. And this is the simplified version of the model. So transformative trip experience lead to affective stimulation, cognitive stimulation, and they can influence each other as well. Self-changes and behavioral changes. And unfortunately, we didn't have enough data. We collected more than 5,000 responses from people who previously had transformative trip experiences for these studies, but it's not enough to analyze the moderating effects of social demographic characteristics, cultural differences, personality traits, and travel experience, and many other variables. So these are the main triggers of transformation we found in tourism: uniting with nature, wildlife, mountains, oceans, and so on, meeting with new people, local people, fellow travelers, having romantic relationship, engaging in spiritual and religious activities, witnessing tragedies, facing with some problems during the trip, engaging in self-improvement, cultural activities, living in a different place, taking on challenging activities, races, marathons, and so on, and learning new skills, and so on. The self changes can be described as changing the frames of reference, changing values, changing beliefs, changing perceptions of the world. I realized that everything is possible. I found balance. I grew personally. I realized the real meaning of life, and so on. And it's interesting that the triggers of transformation might be positive or negative. And later I'll tell you that negative experiences cost higher level of transformation for more tourists. But at the same time, self changes are for the better. They are positive. And consequent actions are positive as well. So acquiring new knowledge, letting things slide, taking new initiatives, helping people, volunteering more, traveling more, changing the lifestyle, spending more time with a family, seeking to meet new people, making life-changing decisions, and so on. All of these are positive behavior, positive actions that resulted from self-changes and the triggers of transformation, transformative experiences. After that, we decided to develop a scale to measure the outcomes of the transformation, to measure tourists' changes after transformative travel experiences. And we used the Churchill scale development process by specifying the domain, generating items, collecting the first qualitative data, scale purification, collecting data again, assessing validity and reliability, and so on. So finally, we received different items for personality changes, and they are related to the existing scales of personality traits: adventureness, compassion, conscientiousness, curiosity, emotional stability, honesty, introversion, openness, self-efficacy, spirituality, agreeableness, and so on. So we collected the first of qualitative data, coding, developing items. After that, we discussed these items with experts, multidisciplinary group of experts. After that, the items that we generated, we collected the first set of quantitative data. You can see the social demographic characteristics on the screen, and we did EFA with these transformation items. So you can see that we formatted them more than before the changes. I want more to live in a different country than before. I seek more adventure than before. I seek to visit new places more than before. I seek more changes than before, and so on. After that, we collected the next set of data, and we did the confirmatory factor analysis. You can see the good model fit on the screen, and the final resulted scale with the dimensions of adventureness, compassion, conscientiousness, emotional stability, introversion, and spirituality. So now we can use this scale to evaluate the result, the outcome of transformation. But at the same time, it's still a question how to design transformative experiences, how to measure transformative experiences, how to test transformative experiences, and so on. And in order to answer this question, I recently published 1 month ago a conceptual paper by introducing the transformative experience diagram and by trying to answer the questions: where, with whom, when, and how transformation happens in tourism. And I can share with you some results of some studies we conducted before. So first of all, people did not expect these changes. It's a surprise. That's why it's so difficult to design transformative experiences, because they should be surprising for tourists. People value negative experiences and much more than positive experiences, and the negative experiences more often cost tourists transformation. So we know the negativity biases. There is also the Kahneman's prospect theory. So, and here there is also the ethical consideration. Can we design negative experiences if they lead to positive changes and positive actions? The next question is about the purpose of the trip and the level of travel, as I call it, travel maturity, travel experience. So we observed transformation for tourists with a certain level of previous experience, of travel experience. And if we think about hierarchy of needs, different pyramids, travel career ladders, and so on, it's possible that on the first stage is leisure, physical needs, then exploring the world, then status, prestige, conspicuous destinations, then experiences, emotions, and transformation might be the top of this pyramid. So people have the need to transform themselves while traveling after they satisfied all the basic needs related to tourism. So I called it as travel maturity. So the more matured tourists are, the more chances that they feel these changes and they face with the process of transformation. At the same time, we found that transformation is rare for the very experienced tourists. So possibly they have a certain level of habituation or decreased response to repeated stimuli. Possibly this is related to burnout, familiarity with different travel activities, and so on. So we can talk about the inverted U shape of travel experiences. People with significant travel experience are more related to transformation, to the process of transformation in tourism, but not very experienced travelers. And here there is also an opportunity to develop leisure destinations, explorative destinations. We have status destinations, we have experiential destinations, and we can try to create transformative destinations. And I even did the GIS map of the most transformative destinations in the world. But again, I need to collect more data from different cultures, from different regions, from different countries, and so on. What else? Transformation should lead to actions. If people follow these steps from the triggers of transformation, feelings, self-disorienting dilemma, and self-changes, but they did not result in any actions, it means that the process of transformation is not completed. So somebody can stop here. They had transformative experiences. They felt some emotions, some feelings, but they do not have any skills to reflect on this, or they don't have time to do this. So we cannot consider it the process of transformation, because people did not move to another stage. They did not move to another position of the personality, worldviews, thoughts, and so on. And there are many other questions I'm thinking about in relation to transformation, and I hope that maybe you can help me to brainstorm some ideas in relation to this. activities. What kind of activities? How to design these activities? How to measure these activities? How to test these activities? They might be positive or negative. Again, is it a good idea to introduce negative experience that have the potential to cause positive changes and positive behavior and positive actions? The duration. We know that we have the event duration neglect, and the duration of the event does not influence the total experience. So either there should be one-time experiences or a series of experiences that reinforce each other, or some other consequences of experiences. The setting. Should we do field experiments? Should we use the natural settings, or we can try to conduct some lab experiments and assign different groups of people to different transformative experience hypothetical scenarios. Moderating effects. There is a huge number of variables that can moderate this relationship between transformative experiences and their outcomes, like social demographic characteristics, prior experience, personality traits, cultural differences, trip characteristics, and so on. Again, how we can explore the moderating effects of all of these factors. I understand that there should be field experiments, but it's extremely difficult to design field experiments in relation to tourist transformation. So can we design lab experiments that help us to explore tourism experience? And finally, measuring experience. It's always a challenge. I'm not a big fan of self-reported evaluations of experiences. I'm widely criticizing self-reported surveys, retrospective evaluations of experience due to social desirability, availability heuristics, unconscious nature of experience, memory limitations, and many other biases. So how to measure these experiences? Again, we have a list of activities. It's possible that we can design some transformative experiences based on these activities that people took place while having transformative experiences. We have a potential to measure experience by using a combination of different techniques. In addition to self-reported evaluations, we can use experience sampling method. We can use a combination of interactions, perceptions, affect, outcomes. But again, the question about experience sampling is if we can use self-reported evaluations of tourist experience. We can use momentary-based psychophysiological techniques, and I certainly pretested electrodermal activity, heart rate variability, electromyography, pupillometry, electroencephalography, and some other opportunities. But how can we do these in fields? And again, if we can conduct lab experiments to measure these experiences. So there is a huge number of questions. We have the tool to measure the outcomes of transformation. We have the model that we can use to analyze the effects of different transformative experiences on self-changes and consequent actions. The question is how to design these triggers, these transformative experiences themselves, how to test them, and how to introduce them in our tourism activities and in our tourism products. Thank you so much for your attention. I'll be happy to get any feedback, and I invite you to work on transformative tourism studies.